As many of you already know, just a few days ago, the Detroit Lions signed David Montgomery to a 3-year, $18 million deal. And when this happened, it became pretty clear that the Detroit Lions weren't going to be re-signing Jamaal Williams. And when hearing that, it was pretty sad. Williams was a huge influence on the Lions team, not just scoring touchdowns and breaking Barry Sanders' records, but he was a huge influence in the locker rooms. I'm sure many of you have seen the videos. He was extremely motivated, and I'm sure he helped the Lions mental a ton this year. And then just yesterday, the Saints agreed to a 3-year contract with Jamaal Williams. So now he's 100% gone. I'm pretty sure everyone knew that the Lions weren't going to sign Jamaal Williams after he signed Montgomery, but for sure now, if you still thought that they had a chance of signing Jamaal Williams, not anymore. Now, again, it's really sad to lose Williams. He was a big personality, big character on the Lions. He was a fan favorite for, I know, a lot of people, but when it comes down to it, I think this was the best decision. I know Jamaal Williams broke Barry Sanders' touchdown record this season, and that kind of gave him a big name, breaking a big record, scoring 17 touchdowns in one season, being the rushing touchdown leader. I think he kind of made a little bit more of a name for himself. Like, if you didn't know Jamaal Williams before this season, if you weren't a Lions fan, you probably did at the end of this season. But Jamaal Williams breaking Barry Sanders' record and punching in 17 touchdowns wasn't really all Jamaal Williams. Now, before I explain, I want to make myself clear. I'm not hating on Jamaal Williams at all. I love Jamaal Williams. I always will love Jamaal Williams, but I do think that Jamaal Williams was a little overrated. He's just kind of his 17 touchdowns was a little bit of just a right place at the right time kind of thing. Now, I think his personality was one of a kind, and I think that was super important to the Detroit Lions in helping them rebuild and gain their mental of strength and grit, but I do think Jamaal Williams had a little bit of luck with his 17 touchdowns. If you look at Jamaal Williams' stats in the years prior, he only had 13 touchdowns through his first 5 years in the NFL, and then had 17 this most recent season. And the reason for that is a little bit because the Detroit Lions had one of the best offenses in the NFL last season. Brad Holmes was one of the best, if not the best, offensive coordinator last season. If you look back, the Detroit Lions had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL last season, and again, they're gonna have it next season. If the Lions didn't have a top-tier coach, top-tier offensive line, top-tier offense last season, Jamaal Williams doesn't get 17 touchdowns. And again, I'm not trying to hate on Jamaal Williams or anything. I'm just giving out the facts that everyone loves Jamaal Williams, I'm sure, and I still love Jamaal Williams, and his personality was one of a kind. Just, I don't think he's one of the best running backs out there, and that's why I think David Montgomery was the right decision for Detroit. I think David Montgomery was a bit of an upgrade from Jamaal Williams. Last year, he had over 800 yards rushing with the Bears offensive line. Imagine how well he will do with the Lions offensive line. We know the Lions wanted to run the ball, and bringing in David Montgomery is going to help them do that even more. Now, we know the Lions already have DeAndre Swift, an insane playmaker, one of a kind. Every time I talk about him, I always bring up the play against Washington earlier this season in week 2, where he falls in like 3rd and 16, gets up, makes like 4 guys miss, and scores a touchdown. Swift is unbelievable and crazy and all, but the worry about Swift is that people think he's injury prone, and he did deal with a few injuries last season, but Swift has come out himself and said, I'm not injury prone, I'm all set. So it's kind of up to your opinion if you think Swift is injury prone or not. In my personal opinion, which I don't give it on this channel because I keep a level of zero bias and I'm an unbiased sports analyst, I would say fuck the Packers. I would say that Swift is a little injury prone, but not to an extreme extent where we have to worry about him getting injured every game. I think he does get injured a little bit more on average than other players, but like not too crazy, if that makes sense. But I'm now extremely excited to have Montgomery with Swift. I think Montgomery is a little bit of a play style as Swift. He can make men miss. He has great moves, but he's a little bit bigger. He's kind of like Jamaal Williams, where he can punch in touchdowns. He can be that big number 2. He can be that goal line running back. Now, I am unsure with how many people that will agree or disagree with me when I say that Montgomery was an upgrade from Jamaal Williams. But from watching Montgomery and Williams play, Montgomery looks like the better rusher. I feel like he's just capable of more, has a higher ceiling. And if I was a defender and I was going up against Swift and Montgomery or Swift and Jamaal Williams, I would definitely feel like Swift and Montgomery would be the more scarier duo, and I would rather play Williams and Swift. But no matter the running back on the Lions team, I think they're going to have at least some level of success because the Lions offensive line and Lions offense is just that strong. Now here's some insider info which we don't know if is 100% true or not, but I'm gonna read it anyway on why the Lions didn't re-sign Jamaal Williams. From my understanding, talking to a source, which we don't know if it's true or not, so take it with a grain of salt, Jamaal Williams was given a deadline of when to come to a decision before the new league year. When it became apparent it wouldn't be the same process as John Kaminsky, Brad Holmes and the Lions went on the process to replace Williams. The one thing that they told me, and was the main point of why they acted quickly into running back, we didn't want to be left with leftovers, and sometimes you have to make calculated decisions that aren't easy but necessary. Now, if this was true and Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes talked to Williams, gave him a deadline, and he was being wishy-washy, it makes sense for Brad Holmes to go out and get a running back because the Lions need a running back and they obviously want to solidify that position. Now, some other apparent inside information, again, we don't know if it's true or not, but it says, I heard he was offered the same deal Montgomery got and turned it down. You're absolutely right though, the longer you wait, the lower numbers get it, and they end up having to settle. Now, all this apparent insider information, it makes sense. It kind of seems like this is a possibility of what actually happened, but at the same time, I don't 100% agree with it. If Williams was actually offered the same deal as Montgomery, 3 years, $18 million, why would he sign with the Saints for 3 years for $12 million? And do we really think that Jamaal Williams is just being wishy-washy with his deadline that he was apparently given, or was Brad Holmes just wanting to go out and get a better running back and upgrade? And I think that may seem more like the case. It's sad and it sucks that we won't have Jamaal Williams, but it seems like that's more of a probable case that Brad Holmes just wanted to upgrade. He obviously wants to make the team better, and I agree with him if that's the case, that Montgomery is an upgrade from Jamaal Williams, and that's why he didn't resign Jamaal Williams. He went out and got David Montgomery. But I'm sure the NFL and all the refs are super sad because they won't be able to penalize and harass the Lions and fine Jamaal Williams for doing a legal dance. Another possibility of why the Lions didn't resign Jamaal Williams, it goes along with the first theory that Jamaal Williams couldn't come to a decision by the deadline. Do you think Jamaal Williams was asking for too much money than the Lions thought he was worth? I think that's also another good possibility as well. Another question I have now is that with the signing of David Montgomery, do the Lions still have a chance of drafting a running back in this draft in the first or second round, especially Bijan Robinson? Because I know the Lions have now David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift, but a third running back in there would be helpful, especially for when Swift is injured, because he most likely would be injured for like a few games this season. And regarding Swift's injury, I think that David Montgomery is now a huge factor into replacing Swift. When Swift was injured last season, I don't think Jamaal Williams was really a replacement for Swift. Jamaal Williams was totally different, but I feel like David Montgomery can be a sort of replacement. He bounces off guys, break tackle, and that's a lot of what Swift does. I think that's kind of what may have been missing from Jamaal Williams, that playmaking ability, that ability to make tackles, make plays out of nothing. I feel like Jamaal Williams didn't really have that, as Swift and Montgomery definitely do. In the end, it's super sad to lose Jamaal Williams, but at the same time, extremely exciting to sign David Montgomery. I'm excited to see how Jamaal Williams plays in New Orleans and how David Montgomery performs with the Lions. I'm sure he's going to be a beast. And that is going to be the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed my content, I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. And once again, thanks for watching.